guests and visiting Rotarians. Welcome to the 6th Rotary meeting of the Rotary year 2020-2021. Before we start, let's get a few reminders on the housekeeping. All participants will be muted during the presentation and talks. You can use a chat function to communicate with other members. We will inform all when it's time for Q&A, and please use the function raise hand. You don't have to raise your hand. There's a button you can click on Zoom, and you'll be invited to speak. Please ensure you registered your full name and not a nickname, so we can know who is behind. And please switch on your video throughout the session. We'll only take your attendance if your video is switched on all the time. This session will be recorded for record keeping and for club promotion on social media. Please attend throughout the meeting and kindly do not leave only to enter again later. President Dinesh, I hand it over to you now.
Thank you, Jean-Philippe.
Most welcome.
Let me share.
Dinesh.
They are all
Okay, yeah. PDG 𝐁𝐞𝐬𝐭, past presidents, distinguished guests, fellow Rotarians. Very good evening to everyone, and it is my pleasure to welcome you all to our 6th Rotary meeting of this year. I would warmly welcome all our guests of our members and thank you for attending our meeting. I'm delighted to welcome our speaker, Professor Sattar Bhavani, who will be speaking later this evening on a very relevant topic, leadership in disruptive time. Thank you, Professor Bhavani, for being with us and accepting our invitation to speak. We have another Rotarian guest from far off, and I would very warm welcome to PDG 𝐁𝐞𝐬𝐭 from Rotary Club of Metropolitan in Lebanon for attending our meeting. And please carry our best wishes to the people affected by recent calamity in your country. I would ask PDG 𝐁𝐞𝐬 to say a few words about your club. PDG 𝐁𝐞𝐬𝐭, could you unmute yourself?
Oh, yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. My name is 𝐁𝐞𝐬𝐭. I'm past Deputy District Governor. I've been with Rotary almost 28 years. And I've been many times District Treasurer as well because I worked for Merrill Lynch, Bank of America. And now I'm retired. My son is working at the Julius Baer in Dubai. And I think he's a colleague with Viran in Singapore. He gave me, to speak about Lebanon and the crisis that we are facing. Unfortunately, we were having at the port of Beirut almost 2,750 tons of ammonia. They were keeping it since 2014. And many people, they said it's not dangerous and it was well kept, but on the contrary, later on they added fireworks also, about 2-3 tons of fireworks beside the ammonia. And unfortunately, on the 4th of August, there was a nuclear explosive that took off 15 kilometers of explosive. Houses were destroyed. We have 5,000 injured and almost 200 dead. The majority of the houses in that area were destroyed completely within the parameter of 5,000 meter, and within 15 kilometers glass and aluminium and walls were completely fall down. We estimated the loss between 25 to 30 billion US dollars. Nevertheless, the Lebanese, they were very active. All the youngsters, men and women, they went down to the streets and they were cleaning the roads and the houses. But there is a lot of work to be done. We got aids from Saudi Arabia, from Qatar, from Kuwait, from Jordan. Planes, they were sending materials such as food, hospitals, material, medical, etc. But now, of course, these are not enough. Now, Rotary, we were working, every club, he was contributing, and we were donating food boxes and medical equipment, and for the COVID-19 as well. We almost distributed almost 150 boxes. Until last week, the government came up and he said, we prefer to work together, not every club alone. And if we have a fundraising coming from abroad and also from the country, we should put them all in one account. This is the country fund, Lebanon country fund account, in order to start working on bigger projects and approve the project. And that's why, we took a fast decision for a short term, three periods. We selected a short-term period, that means between 1 week and 1 month, to start on three things. First of all, to start distributing food boxes, because we have around 2,000 families now. They are without houses. They have shelter box now. They are living. Some of them, they are living with their families and friends. So the short-term now aid that we decided to do, three things. First of all, distributing food boxes, to needy people who doesn't have food now and their houses are destroyed. The second thing is medical equipment that contains milk, Pampers, medicine, and blankets for the winter. This is the second item. The third item, medicine to the hospitals. Various kind of medicine. This is, we have to start distributing to hospitals. We did the global grant last month, and we distributed the 12, these respiratory machines for the hospitals to avoid for Corona.
Thank you.
This costed us around $170,000 grant. And now,
Thank you.
Thanks, PDG. I have the details. I will share it I'll share it in tomorrow's international committee meeting.
Right. We have all the details, and thank you very much,
if you
PDG Kamal. And before we move today's proceedings, it is my pleasure to call upon past President Mohandas Palyat to raise toast for Rotary Club of Metropolitan, together with our great institution, Rotary International. PP Mohan, please. Mohan, you have to, Mohan, you have to unmute yourself.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, can you hear?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Sorry. Please, President Dinesh and fellow Rotarians and guests, please join me. Please be upstanding and join me in a toast to the Rotary Club of Metropolitan District 2452 in Lebanon, just outside of Beirut. And of course, you just heard from Past District Governor 𝐁𝐞𝐬𝐭 and to Rotary International, to Rotary Club Metropolitan
and
Rotary International.
Yes.
Thank you, PP Mohan. And now it's my pleasure to call upon our Honorary Secretary, Bridget Holz-Schneider, to make club announcements.
Yes, thank you, President Dinesh. I only have 2 announcements to make, so no slides. First of all, the ISC meeting, as Varun already mentioned, is taking place tomorrow evening. They start at 7:45 with a bit of yoga at the beginning to warm up the body and the senses and the brain. And then the meeting starts at 7. The invitation has been sent out by Club Runner today. And the second announcement is, as we were reminded on our chat today, everyone who wants to register for the Step Up to End Polio challenge, please do so by the 23rd of August. If you need any kind of information in more detail, please contact Rotarian Adnan, who is with us in the audience as well. So that's it for me.
Thank you, Bridget. I think I'll have to share the screen again. Yeah, this is done. And I think all of you know that on 15 July, our second club meeting, we invited Mr. Tay, who is here, number 3rd from the right, CEO of Willing Heart, to speak to us. And he explained how Pure Voluntary Organization serves 5,000 meals a day to 40 locations island-wide, 365 days a year. Our community service director, Dr. Irina Franken, organized a visit by 5 of us to volunteer in their soup kitchen on 8th of August on a most busy slot, 6:30 a.m. to 8:30 a.m. And we had real experience of working in the large kitchen, doing several different types of works. How does Willing Heart sustain itself? It is with general support from friends, volunteers, donors. Can we mute? Sorry, I'm back. Donors and anybody who believes in their vision. Two Saturdays in a row with our 20 Rotarians and friends were given 100 hours in food preparation for the needed communities of Singapore. We collected $2,000 and delivered to Mr. Tay to buy vegetables and fruits. We were so impressed with the operation of this service organization, and we are in discussion to assist them in their growth in future. And they have to grow as our population of senior citizens is growing, and also the effect of COVID-19. On the same day, on 15th August, myself together with Dr. Irina deliver 220 masks and to be distributed to the staff of another well-known organization, APSN. And these will be distributed to their staff who lost their job due to COVID-19. APSN, established in 1976, is a social agency providing education for persons with mild intellectual disability. Our Rotary Club is engaged with them for many years and will continue to do so. I thank all our fellow members who took time off and visited these facilities consecutively on 2 Saturdays. Thank you very much. Next, birthday and wedding anniversaries. We have 2 birthday boys celebrating their birthday today, Rotarian Bertrand and Rotarian Andy. Happy birthday. And we also have PDG Dr. Philbert Shane on 20th August. Please join to wish him a very happy birthday. Wedding anniversary, best wishes to Rotarian Tina Teng and her hubby Zhang Ming on 23rd of August. Now we have our Kaifer time. Know your fellow Rotarians. And the fellow Rotarian is Rotarian Adnan Ansari. Rotarian Adnan joined our club on 24th April 2013. Some of our members work very quietly and contribute a lot. Adnan is one of them. Let's hear from him. Adnan. Rotarian Adnan, please. And Rotarian Adnan, I request you to keep 5 to 7 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you so much, President Dinesh, for the opportunity. Rightly said, I'm a kind of shy person, but I'll try to make it sweet and short within 5 to 7 minutes because I don't have much to say actually. Let me share my screen so it will help me to follow the guidelines from Secretary Brigitte. Okay, you can see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
You need to make one slide at a time.
Is it okay?
No, it's not yet.
Okay.
Yeah, now it's better. Yep.
Okay. Okay, good evening, PDG, past presidents, fellow Rotarians, guests, and fellow members. A very good evening to you and welcome to our meeting. My name is Adnan Ahmed Ansari. I'm from Bangladesh. I think I'm the only Bangladeshi Rotarian here in the club. And I'm a permanent resident in Singapore. I'm living and working in Singapore since 2005. I hold a master's degree from NTU, Nanyang Technological University, in Maritime Studies. I work for ship management in a ship owners company for last 10 years in the same company. Professional and vocational skill, basically I'm a mariner, and my vocation in Rotary is shipping, marine engineering. For those members who are not very familiar with this line of work, because I can't blame you, I don't see any other mariners in Singapore clubs, in my club or other clubs, it's not very common. Basically, a marine engineer is an engineer trained for sailing on board ships. So I was a seafarer before coming to Singapore. About 22 years I sailed on different types and sizes of ships. And I have been to many places, almost all the continents of this globe.
Suresh, you want to talk to me?
I was trained as a marine engineer in Chittagong Marine Academy, Bangladesh. Later, I studied in South Tyneside College, Maritime College in UK, and eventually landed up in Singapore and did my master's in maritime studies in NTU, Nanyang Technological University as well. How did I come to Rotary? Actually, I was introduced by one of the past presidents from Rotary Club of Dhaka North, past president Mehboob Chaudhry. He used to visit Singapore quite often, and he introduced me to Rotary. And I'm eternally grateful to my Rotary guru, past president Jimmy. I don't know whether he's on board today or not, but he opened the doors for me to the Raffles Room in Tanglin Club. I really miss the grand and traditional ambience of Tanglin Club lunch meetings. As President Dinesh already put in the introduction, I'm here since 2013 during PP Jimmy's year. I try to engage myself in ISC, YSC, and CSC projects since my induction. And very recently, I got involved in the first global ground project with Bangladesh. Also, to highlight to you, during this COVID-19 pandemic, with the help of PP Lipki and PP Tapan Rao, I managed to gather a group of volunteers on behalf of Rotary Club of Singapore. Even Tapan also, PP Tapan also volunteered to help COVID-19 patients. As you know, during this pandemic, hundreds of thousands of workers were affected by this virus in Singapore particularly, and they were all quarantined and locked up in the dormitories. And our Singaporean doctors had a really difficult time to communicate with them because most of the workers, they cannot speak good English when it comes to medical treatment. So this group of volunteers, Rotarians and their friends and families, even my wife Zini also volunteered. And I was working online on WhatsApp call and video calls with Singapore doctors in Changi General Hospital to interpret in Bengali to treat these worker patients. And from my experience, I can tell you it was really a rewarding experience, and 2 of the patients got released in a couple of weeks. I also performed as the director of YSC, Youth Service Committee, on past President Gary Taylor's board. What can I do for Rotary? I just mentioned about the COVID-19, and I hope I can do better with the global grant projects with Bangladesh. Other involvement in social activities, even before coming to Rotary, I was cultural secretary for Singapore Bangladesh Society, which is the largest non-profit organization for Bangladeshi migrants here in Singapore. And I am also a strong supporter for PSD, Program for Sustainable Development. It's an NGO in Dhaka. We run a school, fully free school, primary school for children from the slums. You know, Dhaka city, it's a very densely populated metropolitan city, and a lot of people are coming from the outside of the city to work and live there, and their children are not getting education. They're living in the slums and getting into a lot of antisocial activities, drugs, and all these problems. So we, from PSD school, we give full free education to these children. Myself and my wife, both of them are educating parents, and every year we sponsor 2 kids at least. My life's journey, I'm from a traditional Muslim family. My father is a retired college teacher. And you can see the photograph of my wife and 2 kids. Son is 16, Arshan, and the daughter is 10, Anahita. I had the rare opportunity when I was very young, at 6 years old age, I had the opportunity to act in a full-length Bengali film made on the Liberation War of Bangladesh, 1971 Liberation War. And eventually I got the best film actor, child actor award. You can see I'm not bluffing, just to prove the trophy is there. You can call it Oscar for Bangladeshi films. And also, since my father was a teacher, he was very active in cultural activities, and he taught me to learn Bengali and Hindi and since childhood I hope you got a glance of my experience. And lastly, to finish, since it's all to do with Rotary, please register yourself, your family and friends with the Step Up to End Polio movement coming. We have been already circulating. All 4 of us in the pictures have registered. So I hope you will come forward and support the movement. It's one of the biggest Rotary movement, as we all know. Thank you very much. I hope you'll enjoy the rest of the evening. Back to you, President Dinesh.
Dinesh, you need to unmute yourself. Dinesh?
Hello. Yeah, thank you, Rotarian Adnan. And I think we have to find another time to hear your singing. And I'm told that Adnan was entertaining the workers with his singing during this COVID-19. Thank you very much. And now is the moment we are waiting for our speaker, Professor Sattar Bhavani, and to introduce him, may I call upon PP Parlita. And before Parlita comes in, I have to just give me another few seconds. I would like to welcome PTG Andre, who has just joined in. Thank you, PTG, for joining us. And
very
now,
good evening.
Yes, you're here. Thank you. And I'll call upon Parlita, please.
Okay. Thank you very much, President Dinesh, my PDG, Andre Zaharto, PDG Kamal, distinguished guests, fellow Rotarians. It gives me great pleasure to introduce an old colleague in the HR profession, Professor Sattar Bhavani. I've known Sattar for over 30 years now, since my PA consulting days, when he used to run DBM Asia Pacific. His 30 years of international business management experience include executive coaching, group facilitation, leadership development with global consulting firms such as Mercer's, Hay Group, and Korn Ferry. Professor Sattar is now the Chief Executive Officer of Disruptive Leadership Institute and concurrently the CEO and C-suite Master Executive Coach of the Center for Executive Education. He is a professor of practice with PPA IPE School of Management in Paris for Executive MBA in Digital Transformation Program. He's also an adjunct professor of strategy with the Paris Graduate School of Management and used to be with Curtin Graduate School. A big feather in his cap was his award as Executive of the Year Human Resource Consulting at the Singapore Business Review Management Excellence Awards last year. An accomplished author, Professor Sattar has published extensive series of articles on knowledge management and leadership transition. In 2019, he published a book called Transforming the Next Generation of Leaders for the Fourth Industrial Revolution era. This was well received and adopted globally by academic institutions. Just recently, he released the second book, which is the topic of his talk today, Leadership in Disruptive Times. Published in New York, it is available in Amazon and other online bookstores. This has been endorsed by CEOs, business leaders, and global thought leaders all around the world. His 25-minute talk tonight is certainly not enough to see the nuts and bolts of what he's talking about. So let us all get hold of his book as soon as we can. Fellow Rotarians and friends, let us welcome Professor Sattar Bhavani. Sattar.
Thank you, Palita. Well, okay, I'll just share the slide. So first of all, thank you, Suresh, Bridget, and Dinesh for inviting me to be here and to share with you some insights into the world of disruptive times, what we are going through today. And, you know, interesting, I've been talking to Suresh actually over the years. He's been trying to get me to come and, you know, talk. And, but to find a topic that is so compelling that I could share with all of you, that today, because of what is happening worldwide because of the pandemic and also the push for digital transformation. And I'm going to talk about disruption, and this is the topic, the title of my book. I believe are you all able to see, let me see whether, so you can see the slide. Let me put on the slideshow. Okay. So you should be able to see the slide now. Okay, so let me talk about disruption. So I only have 25 minutes. I'm going to go to the point. Normally I do it for 1.5 to 2 hours, you know, a keynote, and 3 to 5 days, depending on the nature of engagement. But yeah, Bridget keep on reminding me, you only have 25 minutes to 30 minutes and Q&A. So I've come to the point and I'll be very direct and I will not rush, but I will be emphasizing specific part of research globally that what we have done into best practices. And also I'd like to spend some time to have dialogue so you can pose questions that would be of interest to you. So you can have an exchange. So very quickly, you know, when you talk about disruption, and you know, the word disruption means different to different people. But in the context of what we call innovation in business transformation, the best definition is what Christensen Clayton, the professor from Harvard, talk about. But before that, I went to various dictionary to look at the definition. So this is interesting. The latest definition that you probably would find on Cambridge. This is a revised definition. They have changed over the years. And this is interesting. He said disruption is the action of completely changing the traditional way that an industry or market operate by using new methods or technology. The word technology has been included over the last 5 to 6 years because, and also by right, you know, not only technology, we're talking about disruption can happen due to, for example, climate change, which is not being discussed, but we can expect that to be there will be a fundamental shift in the way we do business in the next 20 to 30 years. So we need to be prepared. There will be disruption due to the workforce transformation because of the multi-generational shift with the Gen Z or digital natives coming into the workforce because of the expectations, the way the future of work is going to be very different. So again, that is also a disruption, you know, because of the generational shift. And of course, today, as we speak, the pandemic, you know, is unexpected. But to be fair, Bill Gates, predicted in 2015 that there would be, at that time we were talking about Ebola and also the bird flu. We are very fortunate. The bird flu has been well contained by China, Vietnam, many other countries, but that could be far much more worse than COVID-19 if it's not being managed appropriately. So I want to focus, because a request from the organizers, for me to talk about digital transformation. So in my book, I have two disruptive forces. One is I'm talking about the digital revolution, which I'm going to talk about, and also the COVID-19, the pandemic. And they are related because of the, due to the pandemic, the push for the digital revolution at the workplace has now been in the forefront. Many organizations have put things on hold, and many, especially SME, many small, medium enterprise, and actually micro SME are impacted very badly. And now people are scrambling, trying to put in place the digital transformation initiative. So when we talk about digital transformation, one of the book that I would highly recommend, that is being recommended by Andy Grove of Intel, Bill Gates. If you look at the technology companies, most of them would rely on this book called The Innovator's Dilemma by Clayton Christensen, who passed away recently, early part of the year. And Clayton defined it as a disruptive innovation is a process by which a product or service takes root initially in a very simple way, in a very, from a small, market or market segment, and then evolve into displacing the entrenched competitors. And some of this example, probably between Netflix and Blockbuster, for example, how Netflix disrupted Blockbuster, and how, if you look at DBS Bank, and how DBS Bank has disrupted, the digital banking and working on against the platform organization like Tencent, Alibaba in China. Then those are not their direct competitors, but they're not the bank. And I will talk about that, about Piyush Gupta, a remarkable leader, and how he transformed. Okay, so that's a disruptive innovation, because the technology is shifting. If you look at the technology, cloud computing, advanced internet technology, machine learning, if you look at cloud computing, 3D printing, renewable energy, all the disruptive forces are coming in place. It was predicted about 10, 15 years ago, and now it's already in place. Blockchain is a reality in every aspect of in the supply chain, physical distribution, logistics. So we can expect all this advanced technology, a driverless car, what Google, Tesla, and it's going to be, things of very, very common. In Singapore, it's being tested in the universities, and very soon it's going to be something very common in the next 5 to 10 years. So the question is, are we ready for it? The challenge is, how do we transform ourselves as leaders and our organization? So first, we need to transform ourselves, and I'll talk about that because of the disruptive mentality that needs to be, it needs to be re-examined, the way we think, how do we look at business, how we disrupt our competitors' business, and this is something that needs to be changed, our mental model, and I'll talk about that, the disruptive mental agility competency. Now, so what I did in the book, I came out with something called Leadership 4.0. And Leadership 4.0 is about what I coined the term, about ability to demonstrate as leaders. We need to demonstrate what we call disruptive digital leadership. Now, what are these? And I will go into in depth in a short while, the 6 competencies. But the disruptive digital leadership is all about the ability for us to demonstrate those competencies that are critical in building and engaging a high-performing team and driving a culture of customer centricity or customer obsession through innovation. So that is what it's all about. So it's about a set of competencies. So what are these competencies? Number one is about, as I said earlier, about disruptive mentality. Okay. Now, basically, you're talking about shifting your mental model, looking at, a good example is people always talk about, critical thinking. You need to think outside the box. Here, in the disruptive mental agility or disruptive mentality, we are saying that there should not be a box. So you should forget about box. You should look at every aspect of your business. You need to examine every element, every whether marketing, sales, finance, operation, every aspect of the business with customer centricity as a cornerstone of your strategy. Customer centricity or customer obsession. Number 2 is about creativity, the competency of, we all know this, and because this is not new, visionary, entrepreneurial, to be able to bring things to market. So the first one is quite new. The first one is about disruptive mental agility. The third one is interesting. The third one is about cognitive readiness, leveraging on what we call the critical thinking, plus emotional social intelligence to be able to drive success in leading your team. It's about mental agility. It's about creating new solutions, trying to find new ways of doing things, not necessarily totally new, but finding new application for existing product, or finding new markets to be able to deliver your system. So there are different ways of working. So it's about mental, cognitive readiness, shifting your mental model, ability to connect the dots. So it's about strategic thinking, because you need to connect the dots. At the same time, you need to have intuition, gut feeling. So you cannot do away with your gut feeling. And that's very important, but we always tend to see them as mutually exclusive. No. So you need to rely on data. You need to rely on predictive analysis using big data. Yeah, that's important. And of course, machine learning, AI and machine learning to be able to help you to make decisions. Then the fourth is what we call the resilience and adaptability, or the change agility. Again, it's not new. You probably heard of this many times. Resilience or adversity quotient, adaptability, how you bounce, fail fast and bounce, and to be able to quickly lead your team to success. Because it's very important. We all make mistakes. We learn from our mistakes, and then learn from it, and then and get your team up and going to push your digital disruption agenda or digital transformation agenda. Fifth is interesting. We all hear about empathy. Empathy, social skills, what we call the people agility. And now, in today, in the digital revolution, Satya Nadella, the guy on the left, the top, you see on the globe, Satya Nadella is the CEO of Microsoft Inc. He is the third CEO after Bill Gates and Steve Ballmer, the greatest CEO ever. In my book, I talk about a case study about how he has transformed Microsoft to be where he is today, and to be one of the most valuable brand within 5 years of taking over as CEO from Steve Ballmer. Bill Gates is an excellent, is a strategist, very innovative. And Steve Ballmer is a commercial guy, driving for success, commercial excellence. Here you have a guy, Satya Nadella, the third CEO, is all-rounder. Why? He demonstrated all 6 competency. And number 5, and he make it very clear, he says that a CEO, if you are a CEO, irrespective of the technology, any industry, if you do not, or you're not able to demonstrate empathy for your customers, because you need to be innovative driven, you need to understand the customer pain, you need to understand what are the challenges using design thinking methodology, and to be able to work with your team. You need to have empathy for your team, your digital transformation team, your day-to-day, whoever you work with. So he adopted, which I call the PPT philosophy, people over process and technology. In the book, again, I went through, I explained in depth the PPT. So again, it's a great example, a great CEO who has been able to transform. And everyone who has met him, he touched the life. See, he's one person. When you walk into the room, when you speak to him, and from my friends who have worked in Microsoft, and I have yet to meet him in person, because trying to get opportunity to see him when he comes to Singapore or in the region. But I've attended a lot of virtual conferences, and when he delivered, one thing very clear: he's connected with you, even for those individuals who work within Microsoft, in Redmond, Washington. He's able to see you as an individual, and he understands you. That is what you feel so connected, not because you want to work for him, not because you have to work for him, but because you want to work for him. And it's very different from Steve Jobs, another legendary CEO who is number one, very disruptive mentality, very visionary, very highly, 1, 2, 3, and 4, but lack of number 5. Steve Jobs doesn't have that ability to have the empathy, the social skills. And lastly, 6, driving for success. So you need to achieve success. At the end of the day, it's all about results. All right. So you look at all these 6. So if you want to be able to drive a digital transformation of the future, and the pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic is now pushing organizations to put in the forefront their digital transformation as a core strategy moving forward. The pandemic will be over. The pre-COVID days, many economists looking at within 3 years, pre-COVID. So with the again, with the vaccine, in my book, I talk about the VUCA, volatility, uncertainty, complexity, ambiguity of the COVID-19, the pandemic. There's a lot of things unknown. Every single day, you see things in the news about what is happening, the mutation, the evolution of the virus, about the vaccine, whether, how long will it take? So a lot of things are unknown. But generally, we will expect around 3 years before we can see things back to pre-COVID. Now, what does it mean? Do we have to wait until 3 years? No, now's the time. Now's the time for you to get your organization ready if you have not done so. And how do you transform? And that is very important. The guy at the bottom, you see the two guys there at the bottom. On the left is Jack Ma for Alibaba. On the right is Howard Schultz, former chairman of Starbucks, another legendary CEO who transformed Starbucks using digital transformation. They call it the marketing flywheel concept, and how they use customer centricity, customer loyalty, using their program, the flywheel program, to integrate different aspects of their operation. So this is interesting. So we need to understand that in many organizations today, there are I would say some element of digital transformation that already been in place, not necessarily on a big scale, but the question you need to ask yourself, what is it that you need to do or to re-examine your business model to serve your customer of today and tomorrow? Don't follow, and the problem with a lot of organizations that they follow what the competitors are doing, they follow all the big organizations, not necessarily. So you need to look at your business model, look at your customer need, customer wants, and how can you deliver value by leveraging on your people first, transform your process, and then use technology as an enabler. Technology as an enabler to deliver that success. But then, how do you do that? So what can we learn? Now, I mentioned about DBS Bank, I mentioned about Microsoft. DBS Bank is Piyush Gupta. I'll spend some time talking about him because most of you in Singapore probably can relate to that. I talked about Microsoft already, Satya Nadella. Starbucks is Howard Schultz. Again, I'll talk a little bit about him. And I'll talk about Netflix and Grab and Uber. So if you look at all these 6 companies, there's some commonality. In my book, I talk about what are the key success factors. So what is it that they do well? So there are something that you can learn from them. Now, so there are 6 best practice worldwide, and of course there are many other companies I've examined, including Boeing, Procter & Gamble, looking at GE, looking at smaller, startup, over the years has been very successful. But what is it that makes them successful? Now, I will talk about Piyush Gupta primarily because Piyush, and I met him several times, interacted with him when I was the chairman of the Human Capital Committee of AmCham. I invited Piyush to be a keynote speaker at several forums, and I learned a lot from him. This is the first time I met Piyush was in Citibank, and Piyush is tough, like many CEO, is quite demanding, very tough, using different style of leadership. But it's one thing that I admire Piyush because he's able to hire the best people for his team, get the best people from wherever, whether Morgan Stanley, UBS, HSBC, or Citi, or anywhere, OCD, whatever. Get the best person for the job and empower them and lead them to the job. But he's very result driven. We talked about the 6 competency earlier. So probably he scored 5 out of 6, probably a little bit less, but he admitted in some of the interview, you can find in YouTube, he acknowledged that he probably, because of his style of leadership, but he's learning, he's adapting. Now, what he has done, did very well. So in 2009, he came on board. He was looking and he took over from Jackson Tai. It was just after the financial crisis, or just the tail end of the financial crisis, 2009. So Piyush came to the later part of 2009, and he takes some time to look at the business because DBS, is very, very different from Citi, where he comes from. He's a long time Citibank, employee, person who has been into the culture, the Citibank. So he tried to understand DBS. So he spent time. I tell you a story. So first 1 week, at that time, not many staff have seen him because, he's not on 209, not social media, you don't see that much being used. So, but he went to the POSB, a bank that's owned by DBS, and he queued up with the customers, depositor, the elderly, and the POSB is in the heartland. So he went and queued up and listened. Now, this is interesting. Listen to this. He asked the people in front of him, so how long you been banking? What is it you like about this bank? What is it you don't like? He listened and he engaged them. And then he goes to other branches. He goes around for a few days, try to have a good sense of walking around the ground. How many CEO does that? That is the biggest problem today as a master executive coach, as a C-suite executive coach. And I found a lot of my clients, they do not know what's happening. And usually they're the last person to know what's happening because they do not connect to the ground. So this is about empathy, about ability to connect, about customer obsession. So that's number 2 that he demonstrated. So let's talk about number 1. Now, when he came on 209 towards the end, then he looked at Alibaba. He looks at Tencent, all the platform companies in China evolved, and they're providing funding to their customers. And he was saying to himself, look, our competitors are not the UOB, OCBC, HSBC, UBS, whatever, American, all the banks. No. The biggest threat to DBS is this platform company, Tencent, Alibaba, who's going to fund the purchase, who typically will use the credit card, will fund through, go to the bank. But all these companies are disrupting the financial services space. So he went to the board. And he shared his view and said, look, give me funding. I want to transform. And the board said, okay, I will give you initial 300 million. So they give him the money. And he came up with the number 1 called the digital vision, the transformation agenda. He got the best CIO. He got the best CTO. He got his private banking, colleague formerly from Citi, and a group of people that he has worked before. So it's very clear what he wants to do. The board sign off. That's number 1. Number 2, as I said, he's very customer obsession. He knows the customer, who the segment is going after. What the customer wants through design thinking. They use a lot of design thinking methodology to go and look at the customer pain. And number 3, they decide to empower. So empowerment in a very big way. It's a 26,000 employee. Yeah, when he came in, 26,000. Now it's about slightly more. They have not gone through any downsizing yet, but it's about 26 to 27,000. So what he did was he empowered the team. He decided to structure the organization in such a way that allow people to operate independently and give them the responsibility, but he expects results. So the structure followed the strategy, and the culture, or what you call the digital-driven culture. Empowerment, clarity in terms of role and responsibility, rapid decision making. The culture is very fast going, everything done quickly. Not that the legacy DBS you hear, typical, the government, banking, and so on. So he removed all this impediment and giving people the empowerment. And clear communication. So he will communicate to his leadership team. He will communicate to he has town hall, he has newsletter, he reach out and people can access to him, and he makes sure that the clarity, or what we call the line of sight, whatever communication has been, he shares his team, and this will be communicated by down the line. So everyone will have received the same information. Number 5 is about using a big data, predictive tools, analysis to solve problems. So it's about what we call rapid decision making. Quick, because the customers cannot afford to wait. So they do things quickly using customer insights, information that they got from survey, from their e-banking platform. So they get all the information which they help them to develop strategy. And lastly, this is very important. it's about having the right leader. So you have the CIO, CTO, Chief Information Officer, Chief Technology Officer, CXO, Chief Innovation Officer, and many other roles that is instrumental in driving success for the digital transformation. And train them, upskill, reskill, and there are people who cannot perform. There are people who does not fit into this new culture and able to find new roles. And you see in DBS today, some of the talent, because of the branch, they're slowly scaling down. And what happened, you find them become live, in some of the places in shopping centers and all that, they have already called a virtual bank, virtual center where you can go in and talk to the teller who's now on the other side, who, can transact and, you can ask questions and a lot of things has been changed by using technology. Now, what Piyush did right, as I said, is to understand the PPT, the people, process, and technology. Now, this is an excellent example in my book. It's a whole chapter 5, and I talk about DBS, about the culture, the impediment, the barriers, the problem they face, how they transform, how Piyush developed the team. And the other company I also talk about a little bit in chapter 1 is about, Grab. You see the guy there, you see the Anthony and his co-founder, both from Harvard Business School. He had to come back, and, Anthony Tan is part of the, the Tan Chong family, who he has an idea and how to be able to bring, disrupt the taxi industry. But looking at Uber was the market leader. Uber was doing very well. Uber disrupt the taxi by making it easily accessible using the app, using again AI to be able to create that ability to connect the customer. And then again, I won't go to that. And then interesting, Uber disrupt the taxi industry, and Uber themselves been disrupted by Grab. And the rest is history. Now, so I just thought, let me just pause here. So I thought it's good to have more question and answer. So, again, this is just some of the stories in my books, a lot of case study, stories, examples, best practice tools, framework that you can implement. It's endorsed globally by many CEOs, CHRO, academic professors from various universities. So it's a go-to blueprint to be able to develop your digital transformation strategy. So I will pause here, and maybe I'll hand over back to Bridget, for the Q&A. I'm sure if you have questions, over to you, Bridget.
Yes, thank you very much, Sata. That's absolutely perfect, on the dot in time, absolutely wonderful. Thank you very much. And I think we could talk a long time more about it. And I think Suresh put his name in the chat, and he wants to ask a question. Suresh, please. Suresh,
thank you, Bridget. Professor Bhavani.
Yes.
You've been talking about Christensen's technological and innovation disruptions, which is also coming around with Uber, Airbnb, cloud, and now digital transformation.
Yeah.
But leaders can see an immediate benefit on adopting these new technologies. What happens when natural disasters and COVIDs, where the benefits are unpredictable, actually they're negative, and the duration is uncertain? What kind of competencies do the leaders need, and how do they adapt themselves to this situation?
Actually, Suresh, an excellent question. Actually, this is what's happening right now. In my book, I mentioned about the word, I'm sorry to say this, I'm going to be very blunt, the word unprecedented crisis. And, last Monday, I was interviewed on MediaCorp on radio, and I was asked a similar question, Suresh. So I said that, the word unprecedented crisis has been used, bastardized, used by worldwide leaders, business leaders, government leaders, because it's just an excuse because you do not know what to do. But there's no playbook. Suresh, you are right. There's no playbook. You cannot rely. You hear people talk about, many organizations or many political leaders worldwide will use, we've gone through the global financial crisis. We've gone through September 11, in 2001. We've gone through the dot-com bust in 2000. We've gone through the further back Asian financial crisis in 1997-98. Or we've gone through the latest, the global financial crisis. So all this, what lesson we learned is that you cannot rely for this. For the first time, the pandemic, this, as you correctly mentioned, is totally unexpected. And the impact, the disruptive, the horrendous impact on business, on livelihoods is phenomenal. And in my book, I talk about WTO, ILO, talk about the informal economy, we talk about the IMF, ILO, all these three-letter organizations, the UN WHO has described the impact of the pandemic on business and on life, on society, on family and so forth. So what competency is required is number one in the disruptive mentality, what we call the disruptive digital mentality, Suresh. Now this is where people are not able to think critically, and they tend to fall back into the past experience. Marshall Goldsmith, who endorsed the book, Marshall is #1 worldwide, in terms of, it's a leadership thought leader, guru. And I was with him last night on Zoom, for conference, and I was talking. Interesting, he wrote the book 10 years ago. He said that what gets you here won't get you there. So what a lot of companies tend to rely on past experience. I'm not saying you don't rely on it. You can look at it and examine, but there are times where situations are different. They may look similar. So symptom, behavior. So in this case, the pandemic is totally different. In Singapore, Malaysia, everywhere in the world, you see people are struggling to come up with very constructive strategic action to prepare for the post-pandemic. What happened? They use fiscal stimulus based on borrowing or reserve. In Singapore, we have financial reserve continuously. For the fifth time last was it Monday? They announced, the Deputy Prime Minister announced on Monday for the fifth time, surplus to support business and jobs. So we cannot do that. We cannot continue. So we need to think differently. So critical thinking and disruptive mentality, ability to accept the fact that you do not have all the answers, Suresh. The answers lies with the young. It could be the young people. The most one thing I learned from the young is what we call, adopt a concept called reverse mentoring. So we need to accept the fact that we do not have all the answers. Can political leaders, business leader, government agency, heads, or civil servant, in Singapore they call it admin service, can they accept the fact that they don't have the answers? They need to go back to the private sector, go back and collaborate and create an ecosystem where people can share and develop. To do that, you need to have a growth mindset, Suresh, to shift your mental model by accepting the fact that you may not have the answers. Therefore, let's work together, collaborative, even competition, co-opetition, compete and collaborate. You cannot do it alone. You cannot do it alone. So what can we learn from our competitors? Let's work together to resolve the challenge. So it is about what we call disruptive mental agility, one of the most important competencies, Suresh, to be able to prepare for the post-pandemic and to prepare for the future. There will be more pandemic, there will be more disruption. Be prepared. And they're going to come, it will hit us again in 10 years, 15 years, we don't know. So are we ready for it? That is the question. I hope I answered your question, Suresh.
Thank you.
Perfect. Any other questions from the floor? I don't have anything in the chat, so maybe I can ask, because I mean we are in Singapore, and I think Singapore has been known being very skills driven, very much sort of fact learning driven. What you basically share with us now is mindset, and mindset is personality, is character, is adaptability. Is this teachable? I mean, I think people are at the moment thrown into something, as you say, they've never experienced. So we talk about mental well-being, and some people struggle, and then again, the necessity to continue and to move on and to perform. I think that's a conundrum in a way, particularly I would say in Singapore kind of circumstances.
Bridget, you're absolutely right. The thing about Singapore, the younger generation, I mean, if you look at the baby boomers, the traditionalists, those born before the America generation, both before 65, and those born between 65 to 1980, because the education system has been always about not able to create that climate that make people to think. And actually, Tharman Shanmugaratnam, our coordinating minister, who was at one point in time, about 18 years ago, when he was the education minister, he came out with this thinking schools, learning nation, and to help students of the future, leaders of the future, from primary school, secondary school, institution higher learning, to create this critical thinking. Now, at that time, it's fine. Critical thinking is ability to find new ways and to shift your mental model. But in today's context, Bridget, it's not enough to have critical thinking. So you need to have a suite of competency. I call it cognitive readiness, based on research by EDA, Executive Development Associate, my partners in the US. So it's not only critical thinking. You must have what we call, as I mentioned earlier, the ability to connect the dots, strategic thinking. Okay, and you must be able to have that being present, means mindfulness. Very important, because a lot of chaos, a lot of things are happening. So be focused, be mindful, and you must be able to respond quickly. Rapid response. So it's not about, we take time, you respond, when we wait for the head office. No, you must respond very quickly. So this collective readiness, Bridget, the difference that today we need to help our leaders, our people, our employee to reskill. Whatever you learn, all of us here in this room, all of us here participating in this forum, whatever we've learned in university, and I can tell you, 90% what you've learned in your MBA or your bachelor's has no longer relevance in today's context. 80 to 90%. The question is this: what are you going to do to reskill, upskill, to be able to prepare yourself first? Forget about your team. If you are not able to demonstrate the growth mindset yourself, that you need to change, you need to be the person, be the change agent, and demonstrate that I'm prepared to do it. So better, all of you better be prepared as well. So take care of yourself, lead yourself first, lead your team, then you can lead the organization. So if you are not able to lead yourself, you're not able to shift your mental model, then you are not going to be successful. So it's not about title. And this is the thing, last week when I was doing the similar, webinar, the topic is, what is a leader? The question was asked, what is a leader? A leader, in today's in the pandemic or in any organization, a leader is not someone who holds the title of a CEO, a director, GM, MD, manager. No, those are managerial titles. A leader is one who is able to impact and influence others, stakeholders, followers, to do things that you want them to do, not because they have to do it, but because they want to do it. To do that, anyone can be a leader. Anyone doesn't have to be a manager. Example, let me give you an example. One of my clients in Malaysia, there was, the pandemic, when it happened, the first few days of the MCO. The MCO is the Movement Control Order in Malaysia. It's like a circuit breaker in Singapore, or we've got the lockdown. It's a part of social distancing, and people have to work from home. And the HR director was telling me this story. He said, look, all of them work from home. And because we have to work from home, they have to attend video conference, Zoom. And Zoom now become a verb. Zooming here, Zoom there, Zoom here, everywhere Zoom. And you see 60, 80-year-old. Even there's one case I read somewhere in Indonesia, a 94-year-old also use Zoom. And that's how you communicate with the family across the world. Now, this example in Malaysia, so what happened with this guy? He is an IT manager. IT executive, not man. It's an executive, but because the manager was not around, and the sales, marketing people need to access the database. Yeah, the database, because they will work from home, because they need security protocol access and all that. Usually the process is you need to go, you need to go and apply, submit your usual, application. It will take you about 1 to 2 days before your approval. And here's where an example, very interesting example, because they need to serve the customer. The customer is the government. And this guy's an executive. He's very junior, probably one of the lowest rank. He take the initiative because the salespeople are pushing. There's no answer from his boss. The boss probably attend to other BCP, business continuity planning implementation. And this guy take the initiative to access and approve the information is very critical now, because this is where the empowerment comes in, the growth mindset comes in, because the customer is the government, and the government need those information from the salespeople, and they need to supply, and the salesman, head of the sales, pushing, head of IT should not be contacted, and this guy is an executive, IT executive, take the initiative, go and get access to information, and ensure the salespeople have what it takes to serve the customer. Now, this is what customer centricity and customer obsession is all about. It's a result the customer.
Sorry, Professor, to interrupt. I think PDG Andre, one of our guests, has a question as well. I think we should ask him just to also ask his question before we have to wrap up. PDG Andre.
Thank you very much, Bridget. Thank you, Professor Bhavani. The digital disruptive leader 6 competencies that you shared with us just now, will that still be applicable to a market where the consumer's level of IT literacy is still not yet nurtured? Or do you apply different focus of emphasis on each of these 6 levels of competencies?
Yeah. Okay, thanks, Andre. Now, first of all, the 6 level of competencies, or they're not level, they are 6 different competencies. They are mutually exclusive. It's about leaders to demonstrate the ability to think differently, to be able to shift the mental model, develop a growth mindset, to be able to develop strategy. Yeah. So Andre, they're not about market. It's about individual leaders, all of us. Yeah? How do we serve? Now, when you talk about market, for example, Indonesia versus Samoa, versus Papua New Guinea versus Bangladesh, for example, or Lebanon, it doesn't matter. So it's about customer centricity, Andre. So the question is this. So when you understand your customer, what they want, what they need, and that's through design thinking. You need to spend time, your typical market research and all that. The same thing. The same process that you're doing in marketing. The only difference here is you use technology to simplify, to transform the delivery of the services. And you develop something which is specific. So you are right. So for example, if I were to use the same model in Samoa or in Papua New Guinea, it's different from Singapore, Hong Kong, Japan, because the customer expectations are different. How do you deliver? How they want you to deliver the service using technology? Sometimes it's simply using the simplest technology, but it serves the customer purpose. So Andre, the first rule is customer centricity. Know your customer. So it's an outside-in perspective, and develop your strategy using technology. So it's the competency is more about individual leader, Andre. It's not about the market. Yeah, the market, the technology will differ. You're right. The maturity, the digital maturity technology in Japan and Korea is far much greater than China, in Singapore. Korea and Japan, then Singapore, and then Hong Kong, and then in Shanghai, and so forth. So that is about the tool, the means to deliver the service. The market, what the market require, and what you need to do differently to deliver the service. But the 6 competency applies to everyone. About the way you think, how you deliver results, how you empathy, how you ever engage a team.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Bridget, there's a question that Tom Wolf sent to me privately. I don't know why.
Sorry. Okay, then please go ahead.
Yeah, I don't know why Tom sent to me privately. Tom asked, should we speak about post-pandemic leadership or post-COVID-19 leadership? Okay. Tom, the pandemic is synonymous with, of course, the COVID-19. But of course, COVID-19 is only one of the pandemic. We can expect, we're talking about post-pandemic, we're talking about the pre-COVID days, In other words, how do we get ourselves ready when the market recovers? So it's similar, Tom. It's similar. It's about post-pandemic and post-COVID. Now, but the post-COVID, the difference is about post-COVID is more about, it's more short-term. We look at now how we get ourselves ready, how do we prepare our people, how we put our BCP in place, business continuity plan, disaster planning. But the post-pandemic leadership is far much more greater. Looking at a horizon about 5-10 years, and how do you transform the organization to be ready for the future of work, which is going to be 2025 to 2035. So what is the future of work looks like? It's about using advanced robotics, using advanced machine learning. So how do you advance AI to help you to make decisions help you to transform your deliver value to your customer, and most important, how to create a culture that would allow you to be sustainable for a very long time. Now, but the rule of the game is, remember this, you need to, because of the hyper-competitive rivalry in the digital revolution, you need to continuously reassess, reinvent yourself every single day. Now, what do I mean by that? Because you do not know who's your nearest competitor. The technology has allowed companies like Airbnb, the largest player in the hotel accommodation who doesn't own a hotel. If you look at Alibaba, the largest platform provider who doesn't own any inventory, C2C. So what I'm trying to say is that technology is shift or going to transform the way how you deliver, how you deliver value to your customer. So that means you need to reinvent every single day. And last thing, be prepared. Be prepared to shift or to let go or to discard. And I'm going to tell you this, many people do not agree and may find it difficult. Discard even your values, your philosophy as a CEO, as a founder. They are so emotional. I found this company for 20, 30 years and you're telling me to yes, you have to let go. Because a lot of things are no longer relevant. Otherwise, you become redundant. So you need to be prepared to let go everything. So Tom, I hope I answer your question, Tom. Yeah. Okay, Bridget, any other question?
I think there's nothing in the chat, and I think in the interest of time, I would say that we should wrap up, and then I hand back to President Dinesh to hand over to give you our vote of thanks. Dinesh, you need to unmute yourself.
Thank you, Bridget. Thank you, Professor Bhavani, for your very enlightening
You're most welcome.
Speech. And I know this is a complex subject. We are all talking about the future. But anyway, we have time restrictions. So I would like to call upon past President Tapan Rao to give you vote of thanks. PP Tapan.
Dr. Bhavani, yeah, I hope I'm visible.
Yes.
And heard and audible.
Yes.
It's been a pleasure listening to you. I have been in business all my life, and I can imagine the kind of complexities that are getting into business on a daily basis. So what you talked about, most of it I didn't understand, but I'll try to understand. I'm no great guy, and I'm no consultant or somebody in the academics like you, but I'll try to understand because it matters to me.
Yeah.
So, but nevertheless, thank you very much for coming to speak to us. It's been a pleasure to have you with us, and we really appreciate that you gave your time and your intent into this kind of a project. Thank you so much, Dr. Bhavani.
My pleasure. Thank you so much. Thank you everyone. Yeah.
Thank you, PP Tapan. I think we can stop the sharing, Professor.
Okay.
So we can go to the gallery.
Okay.
Thank you.